it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. And I'm going to actually start this evening with an employee recognition award, and this was also involving the fires. It's Richard Hale, who is an auto mechanic 2 with the Central Garage Department here with the Village of Southampton. He was nominated by the Village of Southampton Emergency Responder Chiefs because Richard Hale was called to come in on Saturday specifically to help with some of the equipment out in the Pine Barrens that was having some difficulty. We had some hydraulic issues as well as a flat tire, and then I got a call from Ricky Fowler, one of our chiefs, to ask if our mechanic could help some of the other departments who are also having some mechanical issues out in the field. I authorized that as part of our mutual aid. And so Richard Hale actually helped, I believe, North Sea and some other fire departments with their equipment. So for that purpose, I would like to recognize him this month as the Southampton Village Employee of the Month. Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing on Local Law 2, 2025, a local law amending Chapter 107 trees to regulate the removal of and damage to trees in a required setback. This was opened at the last meeting in February 13th, and so we are having it open again. Did you want to talk about some of the changes that were made to the law since the first public hearing? Ms. Powers.
Sure. One of the changes that was made after a lot of discussion was to the definition of what would be covered, what would constitute a private tree. The definition as it currently is in the code now is, I mean, not currently in the code, in the proposed legislation is, the term private tree shall mean and include any living perennial woody plant, its branches, its root system, and its trunk, if greater than 12 inches in diameter. That was, what was that before? That was 10. And then it also, though, says for any American holly or cedar tree, if greater than 10 inches in diameter. And these are both on private property. We made some changes to the definition of the village arborist. In the past, it was the head of DPW. Instead, now it just says an arborist shall meet the minimum requirements as set forth in 107-5 and is, if deemed necessary, appointed by the village mayor with the consent of the village trustees, and that the village arborist would serve at the pleasure of the mayor. Another definition we changed just because it's used later in the revised code is the definition of substantial alteration. It now reads any cutting or drastic pruning or elevating the habitat of a tree which impairs or endangers the life of the tree or destroys its natural symmetry and shall include but not be limited to heavy or unnecessary cutting of the top branches. Okay, so the main change. All right, we added these two paragraphs to paragraph A.
There's some additional criteria as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, that where it is in the code. Okay, so it says, except as otherwise set forth below, it shall be unlawful for any person to cause, permit, or allow the removal, destruction, or substantial alteration of the habitat of any tree in a required front yard principal use building setback or in the side or rear yard accessory use setback on any parcel of real property in the village of Southampton without the owner having obtained a permit as set forth in 107-1282. Then paragraph B says, nothing herein shall be construed to prevent the ordinary pruning and maintenance of trees by selectively cutting branches to improve the health, shape, and safety of the tree, as long as it is not a substantial alteration of the habitat of the tree as defined herein. And the rest of it is, that section is the same. So it's under permit. Let's just see. All right. This is section 107-13B. In acting upon the application, the village shall consider the following. 1, the age, species, including whether invasive or native. location and size of the tree or trees to be removed, giving special consideration to the noteworthiness of the tree to the character of the community. 2, 3, 4, and 5, 2, 3, and 4 are the same. Then 5 says the environmental and community, these are considerations, the environmental and community character effect of the removal. This shall include the effect of the removal or alteration on ecological systems, including wetlands. The potential, it will also include number 6, the potential impact of any removal or alteration upon existing screening of any adjoining property or public roadway. And in cases where a property is to be developed under a site plan or subdivision, the potential for clear cutting and trees and natural vegetation. Under C, now says the village shall have the right to seek the advice and recommendation of an expert, including the village arborist or his or her designee, when evaluating the tree against the factors set forth in subsection 107-13B. In addition, the village may require the applicant, at the applicant's expense, to provide a report from an ISA certified arborist setting forth the basis for the proposed tree removal, including an analysis of the factors set forth in 107-13. And those are essentially the changes. It also, though, it requires the village to issue a decision as soon as practical, but in any event, within 15 business days of the application submission being deemed complete. So those are the major changes.
Did you want to address?
Yes.
The informational purposes only?
Right. So you'll see on the agenda, we had 3 resolutions that were just for informational purposes. So in the event that the village adopts this amendment to the tree code, these resolutions would also be adopted. One says, whereas the Village of Southampton is required to comply with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, hereinafter SECRA, and the implementing regulations contained in 6 New York Code of Rules and Regs, Part 617, and whereas Chapter 54 of the Southampton Village Code was adopted to provide the village with the authority to implement such additional or modified procedures as necessary and appropriate for village agencies to administer the provisions of SECRA, and whereas 54-5 specifically authorizes the Village Board of Trustees to designate additional Type 2 actions in accordance with SECRA, now therefore be it resolved that issuance of tree permits under Chapter 107 of Village Code shall be Type 2 actions. And essentially that means, that, they come in to take for a permit to take a tree down, there wouldn't be any need for an entire SECRA process. Number 2, the second resolution that's related to this says, whereas the Village of Southampton has adopted an amendment to the Village Tree Code, which among other things adds a permit requirement for tree work to the village code, and whereas the code authorizes the Village Board of Trustees to designate another to process and review the permit applications, and whereas the Board of Trustees has determined that the village building inspector is currently in the best position to review said permit applications, and whereas the village building inspector is authorized to require the applicant to retain an ISA certified arborist to provide a report to assist the inspector in the process if necessary, now therefore be it resolved that the village building inspector is hereby designated to process and review tree permits in accordance with Chapter 107 of the Village Code. So that's just the designation of who would be responsible. And the third one is the cost. Whereas the Village of Southampton has adopted an amendment to the Village Tree Code, which, among other things, adds a permit requirement for tree work to the village code, and whereas the code authorizes the Village Board of Trustees to create a fee schedule for such tree work permit, which can be amended from time to time by the adoption of a resolution, and whereas the Board of Trustees has considered the burden said permit requirement places on village staff and resources, now therefore be it resolved, the cost of a tree permit shall be $20 per tree with a minimum fee of $50, and be it further resolved that the village clerk shall add this fee to the fee schedule maintained in her office. So those would be on if there was ever an adoption of the proposed code change.
Right, and just so that the public knows, the changes to the size of the tree, we mimic Sag Harbor's code of a year ago, which again is 12 inches, but 10 inches for American holly or cedar. And also we mimicked that the building inspector would be the person in charge of the permits for tree removal, as they have done in Sag Harbor. And we can also additionally call upon an ISA certified arborist if that is deemed necessary. But again, those concepts were taken from the Sag Harbor legislation that was adopted last year. But now I'll make the motion to open the hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we have anyone that would like to speak on the tree legislation?
We have 6 people that have signed up.
Okay.
We have Merrill Lieberman,
Not for the tree.
not for the tree. Okay.
Is anybody here just for the tree?
Yeah, I have 6 names. Anybody that's signing just for the tree, Rob?
Rob. Oh, and okay, a
Christine.
few people in the back of the room, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rob, you go first, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. Rob Coburn, 345 Hill Street. I emailed you after the last hearing, but because that correspondence was included in the work session for last packet and may not have been seen by people here tonight, I wanted to cover some of the highlights and then pose some further questions regarding this potential law. But first, I feel a little compelled to step back and recall some of my college and graduate school studies in government. Don't want to get too grandiose about this, but our country was founded based on liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and 2 implications of that are relevant to this discussion. First, our Supreme Court has routinely held that liberty and the pursuit of happiness includes substantial deference to the rights of private property owners. Second, when laws are enacted that limit those rights, there must be a substantial public interest to justify those laws, and the laws should be reasonably targeted and limited to the problem being addressed. So what is the substantial problem here, and what would the substantial benefit be? Well, we can all agree, and I think everyone who spoke at the last hearing agreed, that trees are good, and that clear-cutting or offensive removal of healthy trees is bad. No arguments on that. But for this law to provide a substantial public benefit, there must be an existing substantial harm it addresses. And so the question is, what is the scope and impact of clear-cutting and removals? Since laws should be based on objective facts and not emotion or personal sensitivities, here's some math. In my 35 years here, I recall no more than a dozen clear-cut lots in the village, affecting perhaps 150 to 200 trees in total. And I believe that no more than 100 individual large trees have been cut down in that time that would be covered by this law. So let's say that 300 offensive removals have taken place in 35 years. With a village forest of 50 to 70,000 trees, that comes out in 35 years to 0.42 or up to 0.6% of all trees in 35 years. Roughly 1/2 of the village forest has been offensively removed in 35 years. So that is actually 1/70 per year. That's the problem that you apparently want to address with this law. If you don't believe my math, let's be conservative, say I'm off by a factor of 10. That still comes out to 1/7 per year. That's the scope of the problem. By contrast, arborists tell us that trees grow 5 to 10% per year. So the biomass, the substance of our forests naturally is growing 5 to 10% per year. That is 35 to 75 times more growth than offensive removals. It's an order of magnitude that is just, it boggles the mind. I love trees. I agree with what everyone has said about their benefits and why we should be preserving them. But the problem of people not preserving them properly is so infinitesimal that I don't think it deserves a law. By the way, put another way, the natural growth adds the equivalent of 3,000 to 6,000 new trees per year. That's what natural growth is doing to the existing forest. That's without factoring in the 200 trees that were planted last year, and I think will continue to be, given the great initiatives that you and the Highway Public Works Department has made, or the hundreds of trees planted by individuals. So natural growth is adding the equivalent of more than 10 times the number of trees that have been offensively removed in a total of 35 years. In 1 year, natural growth is more than 10 times more than what's happened in 35 years. So factually and objectively, as painful as they are and as hurtful as they are, the order of magnitude is just off here. Sensibilities and laudable conservation instincts may be offended whenever any tree is removed, but until it reaches a point of collective materiality, any law like this is overreaching, and in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, it's unconstitutional on that basis. So where's the push for this law coming from? Some people oppose this due to general inconvenience. All have spoken for or against the law have lauded trees, the vast majority have opposed it, either because of general inconvenience or principle of property rights. But all of us should oppose this based on a lack of actual premise that the law is needed. I think I've said before, it'll be difficult to enforce this law fairly. And incidentally, for those who went to business school, I know that's been a topic recently, the fee structure as proposed right now will incentivize someone who wants to cut down one tree to consider cutting down 2 or 3. That's what happens when you have economic incentives. They work in different ways. But I don't think we should even be discussing this. I'm not sure why we're not focusing on development. That seems to be when clear cutting and offensive removals happen the most. We had a discussion today about people who might try to work around that and cut their lots before they sell them, but you can address that in ways that we discussed. So rather than using the sticks of permits and fines, why not use the carrot of encouraging tree planting? We could have a village tree challenge with public recognition of those who plant trees in a year. We could provide perhaps discount purchasing services through the purchasing power of the village for people who want to buy trees. All of these things, there could even be tax credits for cash works. All of these things can be structured in a way that they would be less expensive than enforcing this law, which I still think, no matter what we spend on it, is unenforceable. So my real questions are, who's pushing for this law? I know it's in the master plan to have a tree protection law, but why? Who's pushing for it? And given that the vast majority of residents are already defending, preserving, and planting trees, and that the supposed problem is objectively tiny, how do we justify a universal burden of creating a law covering as many trees, even with the modifications, as it covers? Until those questions are answered, I think people can wonder whether this is being done for political reasons or as a favor to someone. I mean, I don't say that. I know. I don't say that pointedly, but I'm struggling. I think a lot of people are struggling to understand what problem we're addressing with this law.
Okay, thank you, Rob.
Thanks.
Sheila Pfeiffer? I think Sheila may have a different opinion. She's your co-chair on the Environmental Sustainability Committee.
Well, our country is founded on difference of opinion,
That's
too.
exactly right.
And I want to remind everyone that this did not come from our committee. This,
I know.
Rob
The
says who's
Planning
pushing for
Commission
it.
actually worked on this.
It came from me going to the Planning Commission, but I did have a substantial, a fair number of people who had spoken to me about their distress at some of the cutting that had happened. But, so I just want to say, I respect Rob's math, and I would never question it because I couldn't even begin to. But I do think that a law like this, which when we went to the Planning Commission, it was considered an absolute minimum type of law because it only deals with the setback territory that is really basically already under the jurisdiction of the village. You cannot build or do other things in that setback without permission from the village. So it just extends that permission to cutting down trees that are defined within the law. I think that the law will remind, the reason that I think it would be good to still have it, even though it's a minimal jurisdiction, is that it will remind people how important trees are and how much they do contribute to the public good, which I will not go back over all those reasons. It's in the law itself, and I've spoken many times about it, so I'm sure everyone is kind of tired of hearing about it. I would like to say that I'm sorry I did not look at the agenda ahead of time. I was busy and didn't think to go ahead of time, so I haven't sent in a comment on this, these 1, 2, and 3 under the informational purposes only. But it seems to me that when it says, whereas the Village of Southampton has adopted an amendment to the Village Tree Code which adds a permit requirement for tree work to the village code, that's not true. It's only adding a permit requirement for very specific tree work within a very restricted, circumstance. And so I think that to put it that way implies that anyone who does any tree work on private property in the village needs to run to the village hall and get a permit. Now, I know that's not what the law says,
Yeah.
but these whereases imply that. So there needs to be a qualifying word there, I think. Thank you.
I will take that up with our attorney. Thank you, Sheila. Did Christine Whitker would like to come forward? I saw you raise your hand earlier.
just wanted to ask, because I didn't have time to reread the whole thing.
Please, can you speak into the
Oh, yeah.
microphone?
When you have a diseased tree, okay, and you have an arborist look at it, and it needs remediation, not necessarily removal, then there's this thing in there about a certain amount of dirt around the circumference of the tree in the ground, that you're not supposed to alter a certain amount of dirt. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you raise the dirt around a tree, it can actually kill the tree. So this is trying
No,
to
but
prevent that
some
from happening
remediation
by.
is needed, and they add dirt or whatever, in order to get rid of insecticides or something. I mean, there are things like that. I mean, I'm not an arborist, obviously, but, I mean, you know, it would seem to me if one had a opinion by an arborist that you're gonna hire, and you show it to them, you shouldn't have to have a permit for that. You know what I mean? You might just tell them you're doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, I mean, personally, I'm not doing something like that.
Yeah, well, again, this is only governing larger trees
Yeah,
in a required
large.
setback if you wish to remove it.
Yeah.
I don't
Just to
think this
remove.
is not addressing if there's, your tree is diseased and you need to have someone
isn't.
take
Susan,
care of the
nothing in here
disease
about
that's there on the
diseased
tree.
trees.
I mean, that's not part of this law at all.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you very much
So
for
I
your
won't go to
comment,
prison
Christine.
if an arborist, you know, remediates a tree.
No,
without a
again, again, this is allowing people to maintain their trees, absolutely. There's nothing that's saying anything to the contrary there. Anyone else who would like to wish to speak on the trees? Okay, I think we will, again, adjourn this and hold this open.
You want to hold it open?
Yeah, I'll hold it open until the April, I don't know the date.
April 10th.
April 10th meeting of the Village Board of Trustees. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Now, we're going to go to correspondence to the board, and I know that Scott will cover this.
Correspondence in reference to a couple of discussions that have been taking place. The following people are actually in support of one-way on Somerset and no speed bumps. Is that correct?
I think that's
Yes,
correct.
those would be consistent.
Yes, okay. We have correspondence from Sharon and Siobhan Tuzzi, correspondence from Linda and Jason Cordy, correspondence from a group that's called Concerned Citizens, correspondence from Kelly and Ken Hauer,
Here.
Lou Leone, Deb Leone, Joseph Stivoletti, Lisa Miller. The following people are actually in favor of two-way and no speed humps. There's Rosemary Sharp, Dr. Robert and Joan Goodman, Merrill Lieberman, Toby Alfred, Martin and Donna Denman, Robert Holman, Martin Lieb, MD, Amanda Grove Holman, Cliff Salm, and Ken and Kathy Katz. And that would complete the submissions.
I think some of them were in favor of speed humps. Some
Um,
of them were in favor.
Okay, yes, I believe was the first group that might have been in favor of the speed humps, and that
No.
would,
It's
the other way around.
Yeah.
No speed humps. Is the other way around?
Yeah.
Yes, 1 through 8.
Is,
1 through 8, there's no speed bumps.
no,
1
no,
through 11 is
okay, speed humps, okay, I stand corrected. Okay. Correct for the record, thank you. And that would complete the correspondence.
It's Eduardo, I'm going to draw. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Ed is saying that he's unable to join because he's in Arizona and he only has his iPhone. So I don't know if anyone wants to try and call him and see what he's saying. But anyway, I can't do this and run the meeting at the same time. So, thank you for the correspondence to the board. I think now we will have some comments, but I thought we would also maybe have some comments from our traffic engineer, Mr. Lenahan from VHB. So come to the podium, please. And Ryan Winter, who also works for your firm, was unable to join, but I understand you're his boss.
I am.
All right.
Let's not tell him that, because sometimes the lines get fuzzy. But thank you. Good evening, folks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Trustees, thank you for having me. Okay, so we've been, I'm Pat Lenahan, I'm the Director of Transportation at VHB. Some of you know me from previous meetings. Those that don't, pleasure to meet you. Please be nice. So we've been working with the village for some time now regarding traffic problems, speeding problems, cut-through problems in various places, and I think at this point we're talking about Somerset Avenue.
Yes.
And we just heard about some of the comments. I think the last meeting we presented some concepts, and that's all they are, is concepts. I don't think anybody's making any decisions tonight, or and the purpose of this forum is to hear input before anything is decided. So I don't want anybody to think that we're coming down their road tomorrow with the asphalt paper. That's not why we're here. So we presented a series of concepts that, and I want to make a distinction because people are already saying it both ways, between a speed hump and a speed bump. A speed bump is something you see in a 7-Eleven parking lot that's about 4 inches high and about a foot wide. A speed hump is 3 to 4 inches high and about 12 feet long, and it spans almost the entire width of the road. And the reason speed humps came to be was the problems associated with speed bumps. They're too severe, they're too steep. And some of the comments about the curb, for instance, and speed bumps and loss of control, I think are a little bit, they apply to speed bumps a lot more than they apply to speed humps. Speed humps are much gentler in their vertical displacement, and it's pretty hard to get the vehicle to lose contact with the road underneath it, which is the problem with the speed bump and the loss of control. But anyway, when we look at the concept in totality, we have a raised intersection at the north end with McGee. We've got some narrowings of the roadway with some curbing, which could be mountable. We've got the speed humps, we've got speed panels, and we've got narrowing of the lanes. So when you look at this, the range of things that can be done, and, you know, from least intrusive to the neighborhood to most intrusive, the least intrusive would be the pavement striping to narrow the lanes, which has been shown to reduce speeds through an area. Then probably the curb narrowings, these small 5-foot narrowings, the reduction of curb radii on side streets so folks can't go around a turn at high speed. The speed panels, driver feedback signs that warn you that you're speeding. And then finally, the speed humps and the raised intersection up at the north end. The raised intersection at the north end is at an intersection that's fully stop controlled. So I don't know that folks would be too opposed to that, but we've heard certainly some negative feedback and positive feedback about the speed humps. I've seen different numbers. I think we actually proposed 4. I saw some comments that said 6. I saw some comments that said 5. And they could be moved around. This is just a concept. There could be more of them, there could be less of them. What I will say is when you increase the distance between them, their effectiveness drops off, obviously. What you want is the person who goes over the speed hump that's already slowed down to not hit the gas because they realize that there's another speed bump right up the road and it's not worth their trouble to get back up to 40 miles an hour, which is what we don't want to see. But I think if we're considering places to start, if you consider it like a menu, perhaps the place to start, the least intrusive to the people who live on the street, is the pavement striping. Maybe that's where we start and see how it works out. I know you've put humps in elsewhere in the village, and I thought the experience was mostly positive. I could be wrong.
No, it has been.
So I guess we want to open up a discussion.
Yeah, and I'd actually like to just hear from the chief also, because the other issue we have is enforcement, because we do have a restriction on right turns onto Hill Street late in the afternoon.
Could I just ask the gentleman one question?
Yeah.
Because one comment that surfaced about the speed bumps or humps
Humps.
was their proximity to the curve.
Mm-hmm.
And statistics were quoted, distance that New York State says it should be and should be not. Could you maybe clarify, what that is all about?
When we look at traffic calming, neighborhood traffic calming specifically, State DOT that was quoted in some of the comments doesn't have that many neighborhood roads. We look at things like the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They have many publications about neighborhood traffic calming, as does the Federal Highway Administration. And what they say about speed humps, not speed bumps, is that you shouldn't put them on a curve that's tighter than a 300-foot radius. So you can actually install them on gentle curves. Here, we're looking at installing them prior to the curve. So I think in that regard, we're fine. That doesn't mean we couldn't move them.
No, thank you. Because enforcement is another component here, I'd like to call Chief Hertow up to talk about how she's been increasing and stepping up the enforcement on the right-hand turns onto Hill Street.
Thank you. So we've been, to step it up is an understatement. Just to give you some numbers, what we've been doing since the second week in January is all hands on deck down at the western end of Hill Street, Somerset, Bishops, Corrigan, and also Hill Street, obviously. So since January up until today, or yesterday, we have written a total village-wide of 864 tickets. 406 of them are on the western end of Hill Street. The other 358 are village-wide. So I am working on a traffic enforcement plan for the summer to enhance our services and our ability to, enforce these right turns and whatever else we see, as long as we can with the staffing that we have. And we are going to be increasing staffing for the summer with our 2 seasonal police officers that will be graduating soon. Just keep in mind, too, that there are instances, and I'm keeping track of everything with the enforcement efforts. There are things that happen during the shift that we have to pull away from, or during this traffic enforcement that we have, guys are finding drugs, weapons, DWIs. So, they're doing the enforcement down on the western end of Hill Street, and they're finding this stuff that then takes them off the road. So I've included that in what I've been keeping track of, and I'll continue to do that monthly.
Chief,
So, yes.
question. Do you have a breakdown of the roughly 400 tickets in terms of residents and non-residents?
No, I don't have that. I have pretty much everything else but
Do you
that.
have an educated guess?
I couldn't tell you. I do know that I did speak to the officers that have been enforcing it down there, and I don't know if the residents agree, but it has been a little bit lighter since they've been down there. That could have just been, a bad weather day or whatever, but we are keeping track of that as well. And then as you know, as the summer progresses, we're going to have to expand that enforcement to Lee Avenue, Ox Pasture, Hill Street, Captain's Neck, Wolsey Neck, and just kind of converge on that as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much,
Okay.
Chief. Appreciate it. So now why don't we have public comments? So you have the list there, Scott, but let's try and keep the comments to 3 minutes, otherwise we could be here for a while.
Okay, first, we'll have Merrill Lieberman.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Hello, Merrill.
Okay, I prepared something and sent it into the trustees, but I'm going to speak a little extemporaneous, if I may.
Sure.
Of course, I'm here to urge you to permanently abandon what I consider to be the ill-conceived proposal of the northern one-way street. I attended listened to the February 25 working session, and I found the suggestions from our traffic experts to be extremely well thought out. The original proposal would do absolutely nothing to achieve what I think is the village's end goal of diverting the cut-through traffic to County Road 39. Instead, the proposed physical and mechanical solutions that were talked about 2 weeks ago and tonight, along with the strict police enforcement, which we've noticed, and it's been fantastic, Chief, thank you, is really beneficial to the area residents. We shouldn't lose track of or lose sight of the fact that when we play whack-a-mole with local traffic, Somerset, Corrigan, Bishop's Lane, from one street to another, it's bad for the community and it's bad politics. Bishop's Pond, where I live, is a community of 79 homes whose residents use Somerset daily to access Hill Street, the village, and points west when permitted. To deprive us of the use of a vital artery in our daily lives is simply wrong. All of the experts' recent proposal, speed humps, mechanical speed displays, street narrowing, creation of shoulders, double yellow line, they're all designed with the dual goals of traffic calming and safety without sacrificing our access to our roads. To, by the way, the year-round residents who use them on a year-round basis. Now, there was an investigation of the only recorded pedestrian accident that occurred on Somerset. And I made a FOIL request with the chief's assistance for a redacted copy of that. And I think it's disingenuous and pretextual to say that this is only a safety issue. And I want to just read 2 excerpts from the report that I received. And this is by the Suffolk County,
New York State Police.
New York State Police. Roadway and vehicular defects were considered and ruled out as having contributed to the collision. Excerpting, the primary contributing factor as it relates to the analysis of the evidence in this collision was pedestrian error on the part of the pedestrian for being in the southbound lane of traffic. If a pedestrian decides to cross a roadway at any point other than as at a marked crosswalk, a pedestrian must yield the right-of-way to all vehicular traffic, which was not done. Moreover, the report says environmentally, specifically the time of day, combined with the pedestrian's clothing, would have lessened the conspicuity of the pedestrian in the roadway. She was wearing dark, unreflective clothing and began walking her dog west to cross the roadway. Bottom line is, as horrible and unfortunate as this accident is, and we want all of our streets to be safe regardless, this accident was not caused by a road defect. So to have the dramatic solution before any of these other more thoughtful solutions are imposed, to make it a one-way going northbound to prohibit hundreds of residents from using that street, it is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Merrill. Who do we have next, Scott?
Next, we have Jason Cordy.
Linda, do you want to come up with Jason? No. Jason, thank you.
No, that's fine. Good evening. Jason Cordy here for Linda Cordy. I'm going to read Linda's letter to the board. I believe all you have a copy. I just like it read into the record tonight. Dear members of the board, as stated on the record numerous times, the core problem for the residents of Somerset Avenue and Pleasant Lane is the allowing of through traffic on a roadway that was not designed or intended for through traffic. Unfortunately, there is no mitigation that will change the sight lines of Somerset Avenue and Pleasant Lane. It is as simple as that. As discussed on the record and previously confirmed by the village, this problem harkens back to the decision made by the then Southampton Village Board circa 1975 to alter the original developer's plans for the Hill Street's Broadlawns development by removing the cul-de-sac of the north end of Somerset and connecting it to South McGee Street. The unforeseen consequences of that decision have been plaguing the residents of this development for the last 20 plus years. Ask yourselves this question. If the original design had been adhered to and the cul-de-sac was allowed to remain on the north end of Somerset Avenue, would you be advocating its opening to South McGee Street today? Would the village board be entertaining requests from surrounding neighborhoods to open the roadway in order to share or dilute traffic in other areas? And if so, why not do that all over the village? Why not apply that reasoning to other roadways in the area? There are several other roads that can be connected to other areas to share traffic. Why Why are there any dead ends or cul-de-sacs allowed to remain in the village if they could all be open to help share traffic? The answer is obviously no. The village is not and would not be entertaining the idea of creating more connections and shortcuts throughout the village to spread out or share traffic. We can safely say that the village would not connect Somerset Avenue to South McGee today if it wasn't already done so in 1975. So why does the village feel it cannot correct its mistake? North Bishops, South McGee, Corrigan, Moses, North Bishops, and McGee are all examples of roadways that were originally designed with the intent of through traffic. Somerset and Pleasant Lane were not. They were designed to be a dead end. If the highway supervisor signs off on the snow removal impacted speed bumps, they will still undoubtedly end up on being entered onto the list of failed mitigation attempts, along with the roadway markings that have been tried, the stop signs, the redesigned curbs, the restricted turn, and albeit outstanding police enforcement activity. Motorist behavior, just like the lack of sightlines on Somerset and Pleasant, cannot be done away with. Some motorist behavior can be modified, but there will always be those few who are not deterred. Even well-intentioned speed humps or speed bumps have negative consequences. Vehicles that slow for speed humps inevitably accelerate after going over them. Some motorists do not feel the need to slow adequately for speed bumps and actually find them a welcome challenge. Some motorists will make up the lost time by accelerating even faster from the speed hump to speed hump. Some motorists attempt to drive around speed humps. Some speed bumps will increase frustration amongst motorists, leading to increased aggressive driving. And finally, returning to the original point, speed bumps do not mitigate the dangerous sightlines on the corners, nor change the design of the roadway. A roadway that was designed to be a dead end. We are thankful to the village board's efforts to helping us remain safe on our streets, and we are thankful to the police department for outstanding focused enforcement activities. Sincerely, Linda Cordy. I believe that's 3 minutes.
Thank you, Jason.
Julia LaVolpe?
Good evening, Julia LaVolpe, 70 Pleasant Lane. First, I'm assuming that making Somerset Avenue one-way from Pleasant Lane to McGee Street is still a viable option and on the table as stated by Ryan Winter, and I guess his superior. Is that correct? I just want to...
We're looking at all options.
Okay. So the focus right now seems to be on traffic calming measures and less intrusive options before going to the next level, limiting access to Somerset. Over the last 2 years, traffic calming measures have been tried with limited success. For those of you who have not visited the neighborhood, the village has added an additional stop sign at the intersection of Somerset Avenue and Pleasant Lane, reduced the speed limit, painted cautionary yellow lines down the middle of the curved road, added signage to one of the curves in the road, put weight limits on commercial vehicles, and restricted access to Hill Street from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. for no right turn. The one option that hasn't been tried, for good reason, is speed humps or bumps. There is authoritative evidence that speed humps and bumps should not be used on curved roadways with limited line of sight. These guidelines from governmental agencies and associations have been presented and sent to the board on numerous occasions. And if you need it, we can send it again. And I think Wayne has spoken to them. Now there is an outcry for speed humps from neighboring residents who presume to know what is best for our streets without having the daily experience of living in our neighborhood. Their motivation, they want to maintain access from McGee to Hill via Somerset, or they fear traffic will be diverted to their streets. Safety is not a priority for them. The proposal to install 4 speed humps on a section of Somerset Avenue that is less than 3/10 of a mile long, has 20 homes with many or more driveway cuts and 2 90-degree curves is ill-conceived. After going over the speed hump, it will be the driver's instinct to accelerate, just as they are going into a blind curve. If a driver approaches and goes over the speed hump and does not decelerate, they run the risk of losing control of their vehicle and not having sufficient time or roadway to gain control before going into the blind curve. Either way, the potential for accidents on Somerset will have increased. Along with the speed humps, it's been proposed to add speed monitors, signage to one of the speed humps, which means we need 8 because they're talking about installing 4, hash marks to one of the speed humps, white shoulder lines, and extended double yellow lines. There are already 17 signs throughout the neighborhood directing drivers how to behave. You are destroying the charm of our neighborhood, impacting our property values, all without the benefit of changing driver behavior and, more importantly, making our streets safer. Mr. Winter stated that the goal of the speed hump proposal is to make it so painful that drivers will think twice about using Somerset as a cut-through. What about the negative impact of speed humps? What about the negative impact speed humps will have on residents who live on Somerset? The increased noise from vehicles accelerating after the speed humps, the noise created from commercial vehicles passing over the speed humps, excuse me, I have to turn pages, the air pollution, and most importantly, the increased safety hazard that they present on streets with curves. The existing safety hazard and traffic incidents have been well documented and communicated to the board and bears repeating. 2 independent traffic and safety engineering firms have opined that Somerset, with its unique layout, cannot safely handle the flow of traffic that now exists. A homeowner has reported that not once, but multiple times, cars have failed to negotiate the sharp curves and have ended up within feet of their home and family members inside. Residents have testified about the near misses they encountered while walking through the neighborhood. The chief of police has stated that 617 tickets have been issued over the last 3 years to drivers that have blatantly ignored and violated the traffic rules. 8 accidents have occurred. 4 vehicles have overturned trying to negotiate the curved roads. Property damage to trees, hedges, mailboxes, lampposts has been documented because of out-of-control vehicles. And tragically, a pedestrian has been seriously injured in an accident. Mind you, at a time of day when the sole purpose of that vehicle being on Somerset was to use it as a cut-through, regardless of whether she was on the curved section of the road, the color of the clothing that she was wearing, the lighting on the street. That vehicle was not supposed to be there at that time. Adding speed humps on Somerset will exacerbate the problem. I support making Somerset Avenue one way from Pleasant Lane to McGee Street, in conjunction with strictly enforcing no right turns on Bishop and Corrigan, and perhaps extending the restriction to other streets. I strongly oppose installing speed humps on Somerset Avenue. I invite you to walk with me around Somerset and Pleasant Lane to discuss the impact of your decisions on our neighborhood. Thank you for your time and continued effort to address the traffic issues on village streets and the safety issues on Somerset and Pleasant Lane.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Wayne Miller.
I feel like I'm up here every time talking about this. Wayne Miller, Somerset Avenue. I'm not here tonight to talk about the one-way. My focus is on the speed hump proposal that was presented. It was 4 speed humps. Prior to the meeting, I received an email from you, Len, 5 speed humps. If 4 are on Somerset, we'll have to put 2 on Pleasant because they'll cut through Pleasant to come around to get away from the speed humps on Somerset. So that's where the 4 to 6.
Sorry to interrupt. When you speak like this, I cannot hear. And when on Zoom, you're not recorded. To speak like this, you have to be here. If you're here, it's not working. So it's got to be here.
Why do you speak and then I'll get up and speak?
No, I have nothing to say. It's just that you have to be in the microphone. If you're here, it's not recorded and people on Zoom cannot hear you. I just want to ask people to speak, please, in the microphone, including people on the dais, please.
I actually played it back and heard myself just fine.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I played it and I heard
Myself just fine. I cannot hear
All right,
you, but
let's
You can't
just
hear me saying
continue.
this to you now? I don't. I'm not sure what
Please
that's all
go.
about.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Last week, 22 residents of Somerset Avenue and Pleasant Lane, some of who are here tonight or on Zoom, sent you a joint letter providing facts and evidence of why we strongly oppose the installation of any speed humps along Somerset Avenue. Based on our research, speed humps are not appropriate for Somerset. It will not make the street safer, nor reduce the average speed limit or lessen the traffic. In New York State, there are written guidelines in various villages and towns that state that speed humps before or after a 90-degree curve can be problematic for safety reasons. The minimum sight distance for the installation of a speed hump that I found online ranged from 200 to 300 feet. Compare that to the one suggested in front of my house, which is approximately 100 feet line of sight to the nearest curve. The other 3 suggested humps are not much different, with 2 even less than 50 feet to the curve. The technical engineers, one who's here tonight, thank you very much, would say the center line radius of the 2 sharpest curves on Somerset are well under 300 feet. In my terms, extremely sharp curves. There is no distance safe enough on our street from these curves to install speed humps. The street would be more unsafe with speed humps. Drivers are known to speed up to and after humps. The average speed may go up, not down on Somerset. Waze and other apps will still direct cut-through drivers to Somerset, hence no reduced traffic on the street. Making our street an obstacle course to dissuade cut-through drivers is just a very bad idea, especially for the 35 homeowners of Pleasant and Somerset. Since the accident that occurred last December, all residents were presented at a trustee meeting with a one-way proposal for Somerset. We were also told that for various reasons, strict enforcement of the no right turns was not possible. Over the last couple of months, I have noticed a significant increase in enforcement of the no right turns and stop signs on our street. There is much less cut-through traffic, which was always the objective. The no right turns with strict enforcement is what we all thought would take place when the law was enacted almost 2 years ago. Roy, I think you said it right last meeting. Let's monitor the enforcement and then measure the results. In conclusion, based on the overwhelming evidence, I strongly oppose the installation of any speed humps on Somerset and look forward to the continued strict enforcement of our laws. Thank you for this increased enforcement and the work you've put in to hopefully make our streets and others safer. And a shout out to Suzanne. Great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne.
David Rump.
David Rung, Pleasant Lane. This is a little deviation from what you've been hearing. What I would like is a clarification on Resolution 10, which has to do with the fee schedule for the rental equipment at Cooper's Beach. And the clarification I would like is to reassert that all users of chairs, umbrellas, and the other equipment are required to pay the fees. Because in this resolution, there are no exceptions. So is that everyone's understanding that all users of the Cooper's Beach rentals will be required to pay the fees?
Mr. Rung?
Pardon me?
Our employees do not pay. Our staff does not pay, and that's as much as I'm going to say this evening until I speak with council.
So you're saying that the staff does not pay?
That is as much as I'm saying this evening.
That's as much as you're saying this evening. But that is not in this resolution. So if there are any non-payers, this resolution needs to be adjusted to reflect that. And I assume the semantics or the wording in this is the same as in prior years.
This is,
So-
it's almost identical to what we do every year,
Okay,
Mr. Rum.
And the reason I say that is because I want to know what happened last year. So what I would offer, that if a person connected to the village is getting discounted or complimentary use, which is unauthorized, that would be what is known as theft in office and would be a criminal offense, okay? So I just, that is my reading of this. I'm not hearing you say that's not accurate.
Again, there may be some staff that, I mean, the beach guys probably.
I'm not just talking staff, I'm talking other personnel connected to the village.
All right, well,
And even
Excuse me,
staff,
Mr. Mayor, are
if
we
that's the
talking
case,
about?
it needs to be
Is
authorized.
this an open discussion, or are we speaking about something in particular?
I'm asking for clarification of this resolution.
clarification is, all I can say is I have seen the people at the beach that rent these chairs out. They actually sit on the chairs, and sometimes they actually even put up an umbrella to shade themselves from the sun. So I cannot say that none of these are ever used by any staff members, Mr. Rung. But honestly, that's the end of this discussion, because I don't know what else to say to you. Thank you. Next.
We have, that completes the list.
All right, excellent. Oh, Mr. Zinder.
Michael Zinder, 36 Pulaski. Just a question of clarification. So what are the rules right now for Somerset and Bishops and all that? I live on the east side of the village, and I was going to visit some friends in West Hampton the other night about 5 o'clock, and my GPS told me to go through West Prospect, meander down to Bishop's Lane to get to Hill Street. And I was scared crapless to do that because I was afraid there'd be a cop sitting there nabbing
There
me.
could have been.
So I went on to 39, which moved 2 cars alight, and it took me to get to West Hampton an hour.
Right.
And so I was just
Right.
wondering, what exactly is the rule right now?
The rule is there is to be no right turns on Somerset, Bishops, or Corrigan between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m.
So just those 3 streets?
Correct. That's correct. Chief, do you want to back me up on it?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, the report.
Meryl, wait. We can't have a whole discussion about this, but I mean, if you have something you would like to add,
The
it.
Nelson Pope 2 years ago was that it was supposed to be Monday to Friday.
Okay,
there was
but
a
we
mistake.
enacted it all the time. Yes, you're correct. Thank you, Meryl.
I got 2 online.
Okay, we'll bring those in unless there was anyone else in the room that wanted to speak first. Okay, please go ahead, Sage. Good evening. Could you state your name, please, and address?
Hello?
Yes, you're on. If you could state your name and address, please.
Yes, Lisa Miller, Somerset Ave. Safety on Somerset is once again a concern, not just because of the horrific December pedestrian accident, but because that accident followed 7 other accidents in just 2 years, including 4 overturned vehicles. There have been many near misses as well. Most of these incidents involve southbound traffic toward Hill Street. It is time to make Somerset safety a top priority with a solution that works, can be enforced, and that the residents can live with. We all agreed to a compromise solution more than 2 years ago of no right turns from 3 to 7, but this has not been consistently enforced and therefore has not been effective. In recent weeks, enforcement has been stepped up and we do see reduced cut-through traffic during designated hours. We sincerely hope that it will continue and urge the board to do whatever they can to make that happen. If, however, this enforcement cannot be continued, is found to be ineffective, or there are more accidents, then another solution must be implemented. And speed humps are not the answer. They will not make our streets safer. They are very dangerous to have around our blind 90-degree curves. Consider a driver traveling south on Somerset. They will not see the second speed hump after the curve, nor will they see a car or cars that have slowed down to go over that second hump until it's too late. There's no line of sight to the second hump or to cars slowing to go over it until you are in the middle of the curve. This is a recipe for rear-end collisions. The same scenario is true for a car traveling north on Somerset with the same layout of humps. The speed humps will also be an impediment to fire and police emergency response to our neighborhood. Our streets will become an inconvenient and painful obstacle course daily for those who live there. Suggesting that our street would require so many obstacles, signage, and pavement lines to make it safer is just further proof, as village-hired traffic experts have said many times, it is an unsafe street for any significant volume of traffic. Our 2 streets were originally designed as a cul-de-sac, not for through traffic. The end of Somerset was open to McGee with the consent of the trustees back in the 70s, when the possibility of high cut-through traffic volume in the future was not even considered. That future is now, and high cut-through traffic volume is the reality. The proponents of the speed humps from Bishop's Pond have no actual need to drive on Somerset. It is a preference because it has become their habit. They have other options that allow them to travel in all 4 directions without using Somerset. The top priority must be making our streets safer by reducing traffic volume. Adding dangerous obstacles just so these proponents and their at least 79 cars, actually I think the speaker said hundreds of cars, can continue to drive their preferred way, and in so doing further add to our traffic volume, just does not make sense. The one-way proposal from previous meeting would completely eliminate southbound traffic on Somerset from McGee, the major source of traffic and cause of accidents, without requiring police enforcement and without turning our streets into an obstacle course that is not safer. There are 35 homes on Somerset and Pleasant, including 2 houses on Hill with Somerset driveways, and therefore 35 families that would have to deal daily with the obstacle course our street would become with speed humps. Somerset and Pleasant residents have endured high traffic, property damage, and accidents for way too long. We've been raising safety concerns and advocating to the board for over 2 years. It's time for consistent, strict enforcement of the no right turn solution. And if this proves ineffective, cannot be maintained, or more accidents occur, then the one-way proposal previously presented should be implemented. Thank you very much. Thank you for the work to make our streets safe, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Who else is on Zoom, Sage?
We got 3 more.
Okay. It wasn't that bad, was it? Yeah. Okay.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Rob.
Great, thank you. Mayor Manger and village trustees, thank you for your time this evening. I applaud your efforts to look for alternatives to the one-way option previously discussed for making Somerset Avenue more safe. The alternatives serve all village residents rather than favoring one small area of the village. I hope that the one-way option is no longer viewed as a viable option. I believe that the proposed speed humps and mechanical displays will go a long way towards calming traffic in that neighborhood. However, as I've maintained over the last few years, the real solution is to enforce the existing no right turn rules with significant penalties, which would themselves become the deterrent from cutting through that and other nearby neighborhoods. Now, I understand the pushback argument that the police cannot be there every day, but as I think we've seen recent evidence of, if they show up for a good period of time at the beginning of the season, and then frequently on different days, they could issue tickets with high fines that would become the deterrent everyone seeks. How many $200 fines will the tradespeople put up with before they change their preferred route and go back to County Road 39? The secondary benefit of a strong enforcement program would be the revenue associated with it. Just 200 tickets would result in $40,000 at the $200 per ticket rate in revenue. This could be used to pay for traffic cameras in the future, thereby reducing the need for police surveillance. Now, also addressing the issue south of Hill Street could follow the same pattern as on Somerset, Bishops, and Corrigan. Implement no left turns on Halsey Neck, Captain's Neck, and Lee Avenue, along with the required enforcement program, and the ox pasture traffic issue goes away. And I know that was being addressed in some of the alternatives that have been proposed in different areas of the village. The only changes required there would be signage and enforcement. And as far as the signage goes, I think if the signage indicated the amount of the fee, that would be more of a deterrent than just a no right turn or a no left turn. Mm-hmm. And lastly, another consideration is the de-beautification of our lovely village. Erecting speed humps and the requisite warning signs, adding new shoulders and painting neighborhood streets with yellow and white lines, erecting bollards or raised intersection pavement, all work to change the look and the feel of the village. Southampton Village is a charming enclave and should not be turned into an obstacle course to slow drivers cutting through our side streets to avoid traffic on CR 39. We should try to minimize the changes that are implemented so that the village can retain its charm. This can be accomplished by some degree by implementing a substantial enforcement program and minimal structural changes on our streets. I suggest starting with minimal changes in the high problem areas to see how that works, then more if alterations are required. Add them later. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Rob, very much. Sage? Okay.
Now what about this video?
Amanda, you're on. Amanda, you're on.
I got popped off. I don't know why. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the trustees of Southampton Village. At the trustees work session on February 25th, 2025, most of you demonstrated that you care about all Southampton Village residents and not just about those who live on Somerset by considering tried and true traffic calming, and safety measures other than turning Somerset into a hybrid one-way street. The majority understood a major traffic artery at the westerly end of our village cannot be effectively closed because it will put an undue burden on neighboring streets. Primarily, the focus should remain on enforcing the no right turn laws by ticket-writing police officers until cameras become available. Enforcement with consequences is the key to solving most of the problems. It was working as an effective deterrent before it was arbitrarily unenforced. As backup, the board can implement any and all of the new options suggested by VHB Engineering to calm traffic and increase safety on Somerset. Bishop's Lane, the street next over, would benefit from 2 additional stop signs, one going north and one going south at the intersection where it meets South McGee. A single speed feedback monitor on Bishop's Lane between Dodge and Center Streets would be effective as well. What should not be adopted is the prior hybrid one-way Somerset idea. According to the construction report, the accident on Somerset last December was not caused by any road defect or road flaw, nor by driver error. Thus, it should not be used by those who live there who avoid cut-through traffic. Unfortunately for all of us, traffic is a fact of life in Southampton Village and a burden we must all share. While you cannot close a major traffic artery, you can and should mitigate traffic congestion and safety dangers. These new options are practical steps to do just that. In conclusion, by enforcing no right turn rules, implementing select traffic calming and safety measures, and by keeping streets open and traffic flowing, you are demonstrating that you have listened to and care about the greater community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amanda.
2 more.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Carol.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for your time, Mayor Manger and everyone else there. I just have one small contribution to make here for clarification. It just seems like folks are grasping at straws, in this case, speed humps, to prevent Somerset's return to safety as a one-way road at the north end. I just want to make a comment that humps are ill-advised under generally accepted traffic safety standards. They cannot be safely added to our street. Let me just quote the research so we don't get into a debate about truth and whatever. Quote, speed hump, these are from traffic safety brochures and stuff that you can find online. Speed humps should only be installed on streets that are relatively straight. That's not Somerset or Pleasant. Speed humps can negatively impact emergency vehicle response times as they can be difficult for emergency vehicles to navigate quickly and safely, especially around turns. That's what we have on Somerset. Traffic engineering guidelines generally advise against placing speed humps near curves or near intersections. That's what we have on Somerset. Traffic engineering guidelines generally advise against placing speed humps near driveways and curves. We've got over 35 driveways sprinkled down this street. Where are you going to put those humps so someone can pull out and not get hit? Motorcycles and bicycles are particularly vulnerable to speed humps as they are more likely to lose stability or even flip over when encountering them, especially at speed. That's what we have on Somerset. Speed humps can reduce visibility where near curves with limited sight lines, making it harder for drivers to see oncoming traffic or pedestrians. That's what we have on Somerset. Speed bumps and humps are generally not effective in slowing down traffic near curves, as drivers are more likely to speed back up to get through them quickly. Look, let's just keep in mind, 7 accidents, 2 years, 4 overturned vehicles, 1 person terribly injured, and we've done everything we can do until now. It's over. Please do not make our street even more dangerous with these humps. Don't barricade us in. Don't create all these ugly signs. Don't mark our streets up. We've got to return Somerset to the safety of its original design, unfortunately for others, by creating a one-way road at the north end. It is the only respectable fiduciary execution we have here, option. It really is. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Sage, is there another one?
I don't have any more hands.
Okay. Where? Oh, is Sparrow coming in? No, that's his wife. Yeah. Anyway, Mr. Lenahan, did you want to speak on any things that you've heard here this evening as our traffic engineer?
Just in general, I'll try to speak into the microphone. I do believe that speed humps are appropriate here if they're put in the correct places. Obviously, there's some concern about the curves and the sight distance. We talked about overturned cars. Obviously, if we can slow vehicles down on Somerset as they approach the curve through a series of speed humps that are appropriately spaced from the curve, vehicles entering into the curve at a slower rate of speed have less propensity to flip over. I stand by my research. At the same time, obviously, we all understand, I believe, the neighborhood's concern and the village at large's concern about the conditions on Somerset and the intrusiveness of some of the measures that we talked about. And perhaps, and I think it was mentioned by a couple of the speakers, to start with the most intrusive type of measure and go from there. But I think, this was a good fact-finding and opinion-finding exercise here, and we will have more dialogue on the subject, if that's okay with you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Does anyone else on the board have any other questions?
No questions.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Were there any other comments from anyone in the audience? Now that we're in public comment period. I see. Rob, you want to speak on a different topic? I do. Okay. Yep. And I see Nisi, you came. Do you want to say anything, Nisi? Sure. All right. Well, let's have Rob go first.
Thank you very much. Those of you who know me, and I speak with a number of you, know that I use the analogy carrots and sticks a lot. And I mentioned it in my comments earlier. So sometimes I think some of my comments here are taken as, if not sticks, at least expressions of concern with a negative or critical tone. So I wanted to offer some carrots tonight. And I wanted to thank some folks who don't get thanked. First, I'm going to start with you, Mayor Manger, and the board here. Your positions, I know, aren't easy, and I know you all put a lot of work into what you do here, spend a lot of time on it, both here in the building and at home, and you're driven by a desire to serve and focus on what you believe the village needs. So I just wanted to say thank you, which we all...
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that.
But there's a but here.
I knew there was a but.
This is a good but. This is a very good but. Trustees, you're limited in what you can do over time. It's only 5 of you. And given your obligation to represent everyone, there are some limits on how you can advocate for certain things. And therefore what you can get done. And that's where several key village officials come in particular, throughout the East End, in our area, village administrators or clerks, police chiefs, and village attorneys often form the core of a healthy and productive community. And I've been fortunate, mostly fortunate, not always, but mostly fortunate to spend a lot of time in Sag Harbor and East Hampton and Shelter Island in their board meetings and their admin board meetings and with their village officials. And I've had significant interaction with those officials. I can say politicians come and go in any of these villages and municipalities, but with all due respect, they do come and go. But those that work best to maintain an even keel, in large measure, is due to the quality and experience of people in the employment positions that I mentioned, those key leaders who collectively represent a critical mass of institutional memory and continuity. We were spoiled for many years when I first came to the village with very little turnover and a lot of continuity in those positions. We've gone through some turmoil for reasons of COVID and natural turnover and maybe some unnatural turnover. I just wanted to say the team in place today, Administrator Russell and Chief Hurto and Attorney Powers, I'm very encouraged by the fact you're all experienced and clearly very capable professionals. And I think residents should be encouraged by the impact they've each already made. And I'd like all of us and you as a board to encourage them individually and as a team to continue forming once and again a core leadership of a healthy village that a healthy village requires. So I just wanted to thank you and say sort of keep up the good work.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate that. So anyone else that would like to speak during public comment? Pippa? Sure, Nisi, come up. You got to go up.
I just want to know about Somerset. I like to talk, but I don't like to talk in front of those things. We got to get used to that. No, I just wanted, I came in to say hello because the fire, I was late, so we came in and then you started talking about Somerset. How will that affect people that live on the reservation, that right turn? A lot of people use that road to get home to the reservation.
It's an issue, yeah.
Okay, you guys come up with answers.
Yeah. Thank you, Nisi. I would like to also point out that Nisi was awarded a commendation at the recent African American and women in Southampton and on the East End, and for all of the work that she does. So, Nisi, we want to thank you. It was a very nice ceremony at Town Hall that I was able to join. So, and thank you very much, Nisi. All right. So if there's not any further public comment, we will move to.
Could I just make a comment?
Yes, of course.
For me, the traffic issue on Somerset is intensely personal, as I am the next door neighbor of the victim of the accident, and I received the phone call from the chief. 10 o'clock at night, when you get that phone call, that's never a good thing from the chief calling you at 10 o'clock at night. And I thought, my God, what's going on? And she told me about the accident and actually said that the victim was not expected to survive. I was tremendously shaken, and thanks to the grace of God, the victim has made a really good recovery. But I agree with the comment that was made that whether she was wearing dark clothing or not, or whatever, the car that hit her would not have been there had the cut-through traffic been limited. And therefore, shortly after the accident, I went to see the chief. I said, Chief, we got to do something about this. I said, we got to enforce the law. Stop people from making right turns. That will drastically reduce the cut-through traffic. And she said, well, I know, but we've got issues and manpower. And I said, we got to enforce the law. If it's manpower, let me go with the board and let's talk about increasing manpower, which we did. And I asked Trustee Zananti, who's a financial whiz, I said, Trustee, if we hire a police officer, how many tickets does that officer have to write a day to pay for himself? And he came up, I think, with the figure, if a guy on an 8-hour shift wrote something like 5 or 10 tickets a day in an 8-hour shift, more than pays for himself. So I'm like, yeah. So the mayor, in his wisdom, we have now contracted to hire a person, and as everybody in this room has said tonight, the enforcement of those laws is key. And we now see from the chief, who's given us monthly reports on the tickets being written, that those tickets are dramatically, significantly increased from the previous period. And the anecdotal evidence from all the people living in the area is, yeah, it's reducing the cut-through traffic, because it's the same people going down the road every day, and once they get the idea of, oh, I just can go down Somerset and make a right turn, never going to have a problem, to, holy smokes, I'm going to get a ticket maybe if I go down there, that traffic is going to be greatly reduced. So, Chief, thank you. If you need more stuff, let us know. The cameras are going to be great. Because traffic, especially that eastbound traffic on Hill Street at the end of the day, and on the feeder roads, and on the south roads and the north roads, it's the biggest problem we have in the village. No question about it. I mean, that's what this board really needs to focus on. All the other stuff is super important, but that affects our quality of life of everybody in the village. So I'm just glad to see that we're kind of making a little bit of progress. It's still a knotty issue. It's not solved by any means, but we're making some progress, and if we keep working on it, I think we can make it better. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Stevenson. All right, well then, I think now we will go to suggested resolutions, and Len, why don't you kick us off here?
Can I take a break for 1 second?
Oh, sure. We need a break, sorry. Okay, Len?
Resolution number 1, resolve the claims for the warrant dated March 13, 2025, totaling $1,413,586.11, warrant number A19, General Fund. $319,118.40, warrant number H10, Capital Fund, and $19,962.43, warrant number A20, Utilities Fund, are ordered and approved. I'd like to make a motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Resolve the reading of the minutes for the February 25th, 2025 Board of Trustee meetings are dispensed accepted as filed by the village clerk, and the actions taken at those meetings are hereby ratified and approved. I'd make a motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton has determined that this proposed local law is considered a Type 2 action under 6 New York CRR Part 617.5C22 of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and that no further review under New York Environmental Conservation Law, Article 8, is necessary. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Village Board hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held as a hybrid in-person Zoom meeting on April 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the Village Meeting Room at the Southampton Village Hall, located at 23 Main Street, Southampton, New York, 11968, to hear any and all persons either for or against a proposed local law entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 110-43 of the Village Code, Vehicles and Traffic, by updating and amending Schedule L, stopping, standing, and parking restrictions, by creating a ride app pickup and drop-off location at the railroad station. I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Len.
Sorry. Number 4, resolve the village board hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held as a hybrid in-person Zoom meeting on April 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the village meeting room at the Southampton Village Hall, located at 23 Main Street, Southampton, New York, 11968, to hear any and all persons either for or against a proposed local law entitled A Local Law for the Fiscal Year Commencing June 1, 2025, authorizing a tax levy in excess of the limit established by the General Municipal Law 3C. I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Resolved, the Village Board of Trustees, effective March 4th, 2025, hereby appoints Janine Rayano, Esquire, of Egan and Golden LLP, to serve as special counsel to the Planning Board for the 2024-2025 fiscal year upon the resignation of John Borquin. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. So John Borquin has taken a new position with a different law firm. I believe it's Greenberg Traurig. and therefore he is unable to continue as special counsel to the planning board. So Egan and Golden, who he had been working for, is now providing Janine Rayano as the attorney to the planning board. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Whereas the Town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund, CPF, has made funds available to implement projects that directly improve water quality, and whereas the village has invested in an engineering design of the Taylor Creek Habitat Restoration Project to support migratory fish population, improve water quality, and promote nature-based flood reduction, and whereas the village intends to submit an application to the Town of Southampton CPF Fund Grant Program to request grant funds of approximately $506,771 and providing 25% matching share of approximately $924,000, reflecting a total estimated project cost of $675,694. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Village of Southampton, Resolved, the Village Board of the Village of Southampton hereby authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute and any and all documents pertaining to the 2025 Town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund grant, providing a request of $506,771 in support of the Taylor Creek Habitat Restoration Project, subject to approval of the village attorney. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, second, discussion. This also will remediate the flooding at Boyson Road, and this is exactly at that point where the road intersects above Taylor Creek with a failing culvert that is causing all sorts of problems to the water quality in that area. So again, this will resolve some of the flooding issues at Boyson Road while improving the water quality of the entire length of Taylor Creek. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Whereas the Town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund purchased the property now known as Moses Lane Park, based in part on a commitment from the village that the village would create an active park. And whereas, to honor that commitment, the village is planning to install a playground at Moses Lane Park. And whereas the village has selected a proposal from Compan to purchase and install Moses Lane Park's new playground. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby approves the proposal at a cost not to exceed $279,403.90 to be paid for by special revenue as followed. CS 7370.400 Parkland expenditures, $200,000. CS 7866.400 Children's Fund expenditures, $79,403.90. So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yep.
Just like to say that this is the second playground that has been created in the last year by the village, first in Downs Park and now in Moses Park. This one, as the resolution stated, was helped to come about by the CPF fund purchase of the Moses Park property, which was going to be a development and has now been preserved forever as parkland. And it's very gratifying to me that in this village we have been able to establish 2 children's playgrounds within the last year, thanks to the taxpayers of this village and the commitment of this board. So I'm very pleased to make this motion.
All right, and I would just add that some of this money is also coming from the park fee that we received from the village latch. And so we are putting this to good use at a park, which is exactly what that fund is expressly purposed for. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Whereas the Town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund, CPF, has made funds available to implement projects that directly improve water quality, and whereas the Village of Southampton is investing in the development of Moses Lane Park to support active park uses that serve the recreational needs of the local community, and whereas Moses Lane Park amenities will include a comfort station with an innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system, and whereas the village intends to submit an application to the Town of Southampton CPF grant programs to request grant funds to offset the anticipated cost of the innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system, now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Southampton hereby authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute any and all documents pertaining to the 2025 Town of Southampton Community Preservation Fund grant program in support of the Moses Lane Park Innovative Alternative On-Site Wastewater Treatment System, subject to approval of the village attorney. I will make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Whereas the village received a proposal from L.K. McLean Associates Engineering and Surveying, LKMA, for professional engineering services for MS4 mapping compliance with the New York State DEC, SPDE general permit requirements, and whereas LKMA will collect data and field investigations to identify stormwater outfalls discharging to waters of the states as required by New York State DEC and CCTV, inspections for drainage systems, performing a comprehensive pipeline evaluation, as well as GIS-based map development to ensure compliance with New York State DEC. Now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby approves the proposal received by L.K. McLean Associates Engineering and Surveying, LKMA, subject to approval as to form by the village attorney in the amount not to exceed $31,985 to be paid for by trustee special projects. I will make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the following 2025 Cooper's Beach daily operations fees as follows. Daily parking pass, $55. Chair rental, $16. Umbrella rental, $21. Teak table, $11. Cooper's Beach stickers, $6. Cabana, $200. Do I have a motion?
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village attorney and the village assessor to enter into a stipulation to settle an Article 7 tax lien litigation between the village and 172 Mariner Drive LLC related to property located at 172 Mariner Drive right-of-way, Southampton, New York, and further identified on the Suffolk County tax map out as 904, Section 9, Block 2, Lot 10.10. Said settlement reduces the annual value by the amount of $5,568 for the year 2015-2016, $57.28 for the tax year 2016-2017, $7,008 for the tax year 2017-2018. Oh no, I'm sorry, 2020-2021-22. For the tax year 2022-2023, and $7,708 for the tax year 2023 and 2024, and $93.88 for the tax year 2024-2025. The total cost to the village is $12,324.87, as identified in the proposed stipulation negotiated between the village assessor and Cronin Law Firm, attorneys for 172 Mariner Drive, LLC.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Scott.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village attorney and the village assessor to enter into a stipulation to settle an Article 7 tax lien litigation between the village and petitioners 172 Mariner Drive LLC, the Lalio Realty Corp., related to property located at 170 Mariner Drive right-of-way, Southampton, New York, and further identified on the Suffolk County tax map as 0904-9-2-10.05. Said settlement reduces the annual assessed value by the amount of $10,164 for tax year 2015-16, $10,344 for tax year 2016-2017, $11,784 for tax year 2017-2018, $94.74 for tax year 2021-22, $8,244 for tax year 2022-2023, $12,324 for tax year 2023 and 2024, and $14,244 for tax year 2024-2025. The total cost to the village is $20,951.64, as identified in the proposed stipulation negotiated between the village assessor and Cronin Law Firm, attorneys for 172 Mariner Drive, LLC, and the Lelio Realty Corp.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Whereas the village is seeking to repave Hampton Road after work is completed by National Grid, and also increase equipment for the police department to enhance public safety for the village residents. And whereas there are a few other requests by department heads to redirect funds within their budget, and whereas the Treasurer's Office has presented the attached budget modification number 373, for which all the changes will remain budget neutral, now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the following budget modification of $553,920.70. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Could I just ask a question? My understanding was that the repaving of Hampton Road after National Grid's work was going to be paid for by National Grid.
They are indeed paying for the portion of Hampton Road where they have disturbed it up to Old Town. This is additional funding to go all the way to the eastern end of the village. So the entire length of Hampton Road will be repaved.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Whereas, due to the greater than anticipated revenue generated from the Justice Court, the processing fees have increased as a direct result and currently have exceeded that which was anticipated. And whereas the Suffolk County Community Development Block Grant was previously budgeted to receive $16,000, and whereas the village has received $20,000, which was then distributed to Heart of the Hamptons and Southampton Daycare Center, and has exceeded the budget, and whereas the village is now providing dispatch service to the Southampton Town Ambulance and has signed a contract and received $75,000, and whereas the fire and ambulance server needs to be updated for public safety, and the village board is looking to recognize additional revenue to cover said expense, now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the Treasurer's Office to amend the 2024-25 budget adjustment number 277, funding budgetary appropriations shortfalls with excess revenue. So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Resolved, the Board of Trustees accepts the letter of resignation for Joshua Bard, Maintenance Mechanic 1 in the Parks Department, effective March 17th, 2025. I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the attendance of village officials to attend Suffolk County Village Officials Legislative Dinner and Awards Night on Wednesday, April 16, 2025, at Hotel Indigo, Riverhead, New York, from 6 to 9 p.m. at a cost of $1,000, paid for by Trustee Special Projects. I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the request from Dr. James Groff, Islamic Center of the Hamptons, to host the annual EID holiday at Agawam Park on Sunday, March 30, 2025, during the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the request submitted by the Southampton Cultural Center to host their annual 2025 Shakespeare in the Park series at Agawam Park on August 22nd and 23rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. based on an event schedule. Do I have a motion?
I will second. All in favor?
Aye. Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the Massapequa Park Bike Club to host its 2025 Tour of the Hamptons on Sunday, September 21st, 2025, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. This event is expecting 700 participants. The start and finish will be at Southampton High School. I make the motion.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we will move to comments from board members. And
Actually, Mr. Mayor.
oh, sorry, we have two supplemental. I'd like to make a motion to have two walk-on resolutions. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor of the Village Board of Trustees, subject to the approval as to form of the village attorney, to execute an agreement with Ring Central Incorporated for telephone services to the village.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. This is helping to consolidate
This is
the phone system
Yes, it's
with one bill so that we don't have different, again,
Absolutely. It's an effort to consolidate the already executed contracts. There is still one or two more building contracts that will be rolled in, although the current resolution would save us about $55,000 over the next 5 years, I believe.
All right, so I'm all for saving $55,000. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Roy?
Resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor of the Village Board of Trustees, subject to the approval as to form of the village attorney, to execute a memorandum of agreement between the Village of Southampton and Suffolk County Community College for the college to offer an introductory EMT course entitled Emergency Medical Care 1, HSC 126, at the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Facility, commencing with the fall 2025 semester. I make the motion.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Now I will go to comments from board members, and we will start with Trustee Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to wish everyone, this is Women's History Month, and I would like to salute all the women of Southampton Village. And I'd like to take a special note and respectfully ask, I know the mayor is not expecting this, and our trustees, that if we can please nominate Attorney Eileen Powers and Kathy Sweeney for Employee of the Month next month. And I want to just speak about why because there was a need in the village. They took great time, their own time, late evenings as far as keeping up with all of our foils, going above and beyond. And then on top of that, they came along with the resources. If you would be so kind to tell me that we voted on who we're going to be dealing with that's going to be handling our foils.
So it's Next Request is the name of the company. It's affiliated through Civic Plus.
Yes, so I just want to take the time to salute them and honor them, especially with Women's History Month, and that going above and beyond. And they found a solution that's going to exceed the time frame and also in a better way of doing it with technology. So I want to thank you both, and I hope the board and the mayor will honor my request as honoring you both for Employees of the Month. And I would be remiss, I'm not going to call out names, but I would like to take the next meeting just to talk about the extraordinary women that we have here and how they just make the village shine, all the way from DPW to our executive front staff to our first responders. And we wanted to recognize them in a better way next time. So
Here, Trustee Brown.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will go to Trustee Stevenson then.
Mayor, I cannot express as eloquently as you did on the steps of Village Hall this evening our appreciation for our first responders for what they did in helping protect West Hampton and our area from the brush fires. As the liaison to the fire and ambulance department, I see all of the purchases that we make for those departments every week, and there are a lot of them. And sometimes people wonder, why do we need all these fire trucks and stuff and things? And it's you don't need that stuff until you need it. And we needed it on this last weekend to make sure that the highway could be reopened, that the West Hampton Airport wasn't endangered. I was sent a video from Assistant Chief Ricky Fowler showing one of our brush trucks driving into the flaming forest to help put out some of the hot spots. And I tell you, it was scary and inspiring to see our guys doing that. And we owe them a great deal of thanks because, as the mayor emphasized, these are all volunteers who could be at home with their family, and instead they're driving into a flaming forest. So
thank you,
hats
Trustee
off to
Stevenson.
them. Yes. I think I said enough about Somerset. I thought that was a very interesting and well-modulated discussion this evening. Obviously, different opinions on both sides, and I just am thankful for our residents for being willing to participate in trying to find a solution that may not be ideal for everybody, but is the best possible solution for the most people. And lastly, I just wanted to say a little bit about the tree legislation. As everybody probably who listened to the last meeting knows, I wasn't a great fan of the original legislation that was proposed. The new legislation, I think, is significantly better in that it doesn't require an arborist to make the decision, which is a considerable expense to the homeowner, and that the fee is fairly nominal. I do still feel that the legislation could be tweaked a little. For instance, one of my concerns is, and I don't really understand how to fix it, is that a very mature tree on a large property that is not in the setback area could be removed without any approval to create a tennis court or something like that. And probably a tennis court would have to go before the planning board, so maybe that's not a great example. In any case, the large tree would not be protected, whereas the smaller lots, which typically have all of their building envelope taken up by the building, those trees would be under the control of this legislation. I thought Mr. Coburn's comments were on point. I thought Sheila Pfeiffer's comments were on point. It's a tough issue. Trees, as everybody agrees, are a great asset to the community. We just don't want to be too intrusive onto people's personal situation. At the same time, we want to encourage the overall beauty and health of the entire community. So as we continue to look at this legislation and tweak it, hopefully we can come up with the best solution. So good meeting. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, fellow trustee. Good night.
Thank you. Trustee Stevenson, we'll go to Trustee Zananti.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to take the opportunity to thank the volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers and DPW for their exemplary and life-saving actions on Saturday, March 8th. I happened to be driving westbound on Route 27 around noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I saw the beginnings of the fire, and I have a sense as to how huge that was, and really, I can't say thank you enough. In terms of other topics, I'd like to point out how much is going on in the village. We've got a lot of stuff happening, and it's not even the summer, which is interesting. Trustee Brown and I were helping to do the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new Wave Social Wellness business on February 28th, which is a new business that has opened here after great success in their Sag Harbor location. Lisa Zaloga and Stephanie Esposito are the owners, and I think it's going to be a terrific addition to this village. The History Museum had a groundbreaking on March 6th. This project is very necessary if anybody's been to that building. The projected cost is over $1 million at this point, with village money and New York State grant paying for it. I attended the Southampton County Veterans Fair on March 8th, where our friends Bob Grisnick, Bill Jones, and Lisa McWilliams were prominent, and listened to, with great interest, the benefits explanation and overview that were provided to the audience. Very impressive. And lastly, the last bit of news that I'd like to mention is the Moses Park groundbreaking, which happened on the 12th of March, which will have bocce courts and walking trails and playgrounds and a brand new bathroom, as we agreed tonight. And that's going to be a very exciting thing for this village. And with that, I would like to say good night.
Thank you, Trustee Zananti. The bad thing about going last is you get other people saying all the things you want to say. But I add a couple of things. I did meet with County Executive Ed Romaine last week, again with the mayor of East Hampton Village, Jerry Larson. We talked further about the traffic situation. He is actually now asking the governor to take over County Road 39 from the county. Because Sunrise Highway and 27 are both state roads, and the 5.5 miles that's actually County Road 39 connects those two. So he thinks it makes much more sense if the state road continues all the way from Sunrise through, again, Southampton on the outskirts of the village, and meeting up again with 27 at Flying Point Road. So he is formally asking the governor to do that. And in exchange, he is having his engineers continue to look at an alternative route, a limited access highway that would run where the PSEG electrical wires run in that right-of-way that goes north of the village through the woods to East Hampton. So that was, again, the further discussion that we had, and so we shall, again, keep hope that will move along so that we can, again, eliminate some of the volume of cars that we have coming through our village on residential streets. You heard tonight, that is the biggest issue facing this village right now, as Trustee Stevenson said, and the issue really is just the volume of cars. And if we can find alternatives to keeping the cars out of the village, we will have a much calmer and safer village road system. So we were at the Rogers Mansion groundbreaking. I noticed that my deputy mayor actually made the front page of the press. I was relegated to somewhere back a few pages. And we did attend the veterans event at Vets Hall last week that was put on by the county. Legislator Welker had many different services that all help to provide services to veterans in the area come and present, as well as just a great time to be with veterans that are here living on the east end of Long Island, and wanted to reach out to see what services are available to them. And Legislator Welker did an excellent job. We were also joined by Supervisor Maria Moore from the town. Moses Park got kicked off, and as you heard this evening, we are going to be putting in a playground there, which I'm hoping will be there by the summer. The only other things that are going there are bocce courts that will be installed, we believe, by the end of the summer. And otherwise, the rest of the park will remain the same with walking trails and wildflowers, and should really be a wonderful spot for people, especially on the western side of the village, to go and find a place of quiet refuge. Finally, I would like to say that, again, hats off to the fire department, the ambulance, and even our mechanic that served last weekend. And the fire department has been asked by the Fire Brigade of Dublin to attend and march in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Dublin, Ireland. And the fire department asked me to travel with them to Dublin and join them in that honor. So I will be joining the trip this weekend. We are flying out, and we'll be there next week. And I am leaving the village in the very capable hands of the Deputy Mayor, Leonard Zananti. So, Len, I hope nothing happens in the next week.
I do too.
But anyway, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to spending some time again with the firemen overseas, and it'll be great to see Dublin on St. Patrick's Day. And with that, I think we will end the meeting. So I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Village Board of Trustees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you.